There is one big question for the week, and this will likely dictate the direction of where prices are headed. And do we have enough momentum to get alts off the ground once again, to get that burst of retail excitement? And although we had a little bit of red in the back part of last week, there are still some signs that this could in fact be a green week ahead. So if you guys are new or haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button down below, hit that bell. It's free to do. It'll keep you updated anytime there's new content live here on the channel. So I do have to say that last week was pretty disappointing. We came off some pretty big news the weekend prior. And that was that the tariffs against the EU were being suspended. We got into Memorial Day. We saw a little bit of green there. But then basically as the week progressed, we got into kind of a we'll call it a shitstorm of bad news, right? There was just negative stuff left and right. We saw retail capitulation. We saw liquidations take place once again, just as we have seen in the past. And that unfortunately caused this thing to shift. And this has actually had a very high correlation with the crypto market as of late. And I don't know if people have noticed this, but what has really helped the market do some different things than it has in the past is actually institutional money. And there is an incredibly high correlation of whether we have a green week or a red week based on what institutional money is doing. If institutional money is buying and having green weeks, we tend to have green weeks. If they're selling, if they're unloading, we tend to have red weeks. And what this shows you is that retail sentiment is very much following just what the overall market is doing, but institutional players are controlling the direction of that market. All right. For those, it's very clear what's happening right now, and you guys can trace this back yourself, but almost every single week, especially here in 2025, where institutional players they basically set the direction of price. All right. Now, the good news is that for the most part, the week had started off on a good note. We actually had some accumulation days. They actually added $800 million worth of BTC to their bags. But unfortunately, we ended on a red note with the liquidations that took place. We got some unloading. Even BlackRock unloaded on Friday of last week. And that sucks. But the trends have actually still been positive. We got BTC to get its normal retracement off of an all-time high. And now we're starting to see enterprises adding. Over the course of the weekend, there have been multiple enterprises that have been adding BTC. In fact, Michael Saylor this morning, MicroStrategy, they added another $75 million worth of BTC. They're just buying and buying and buying. And what's happening is retail's just not catching on to what's taking place. May was actually the largest month of 2025 in terms of institutional players. They added about $5 billion worth of BTC to their position during that time. Since January, and this is a very important point of reference, since January, where prices were about the same as where they're at currently, they have added about $10 billion worth of BTC. It's actually more like $9 billion, but that's neither here nor there. They have been adding and adding and adding and taking advantage of retail. This is the reason why altcoins haven't really kept up with the overall crypto market during that time. That's why BTC dominance has gotten to where it's at. It's because right now retail is being played 100%, being fooled into capitulating and dumping their positions, while on the back end, large entities are actually accumulating and whales are building their position in BTC and in altcoins. This is more obvious than ever. And luckily we have on-chain data to show all this is actually taking place. And so the big question is now, one, is institutional money going to be buying this week? And two, how much longer do we get stuck following the direction of institutional players? As time goes on, they're gaining a larger and larger hold on the crypto market, and that's their plan. All right. And why I'm saying this is if the masses just come in, if we start to surge from, this 5-6% of the world in crypto now to, 10%, to 15%, to 20%, they kind of lose their hold. All right. Because there is just so much volume in terms of people that are coming into the space that they're going to have to spend more money, that they're going to be later to the game. It's exactly why this market cycle is playing out the way that it has. They're controlling and manipulating everything to try to control retail, to control the direction of the market, just as they've, weaseled their way into other markets in the past. They're doing the same thing. And yes, it's been good for some things, for, I guess, overall price performance, if you want to say that. But that is why alts have just not been able to really make up some ground yet. But the second we get a burst of adoption, right? The second we get a burst of excitement outside the space, you could once again see BTC dominance drop off like we've been waiting for. That's where alts can start performing well. Hopefully this is making sense for people, and I don't want to sound redundant. I know we've talked about some stuff like this before, but I really wanted to show you guys the data. It's very clear what's taking place. This week, I believe, is going to be a green week in terms of institutional money. I'm like 85% sure. Maybe I'm wrong, right? That's just my assessment. Understand, guys, I am not saying anything is law, right? The market ebbs and flows. There's surprises. There's good news. There's bad news. We've seen things go up, down, left, right, whichever way you want to say, right? But there's one thing that is for sure, and that is that the crypto market's not dead. They're trying to get as much as they can, and prices are probably going to be heading up as time goes on. Obviously, it's not financial advice, and there's no guarantees in crypto, but I doubt institutional money and enterprises and governments are getting into crypto for price to go down. It's about control. It's about making the money. It's about getting the gains. And they're basically prepping the market for this big boom and takeoff that's going to happen at some point in time. I've seen some people say, oh, maybe it's the fall, maybe it's 2026. I think it's going to happen before that. That's the thing, is there's supply is just dwindling way too fast. They're accumulating at absolutely insane rates. And eventually the market prices are going to reflect that. All right. They're pushing so much, and eventually you're going to get just enough to tip that direction. And again, that's where altcoins can start to heat up. That's where altcoins can make up some ground versus BTC. That's when, everybody will stop being pissed off and will start being excited again. They'll start searching online for their Lambos and Ferraris and whatever. But that's just what we're waiting for. So I appreciate you guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know your thoughts below, but have a great day. Catch you guys in the next one. Take care.